9% of film viewed in the UK. However, as stated by the BFI, which is the British Film Institute, the governing body for film, this represents an 86% increase on 2009 and a 564% increase on 2008, which I'm sure you'll all agree is quite a significant increase. When this is combined with other internet-related viewings, it further increases to 7.8%. Now, with cinema only accounting for 11.1% of film viewed in the UK, it's quite clear that video on demand has the potential to surpass cinema in the not-so-distant future. Firstly, I'm going to have a look at the changing market. Then we'll move on to the contenders, which are obviously the cinema and the streaming services. Give you a few statistics and figures. Then we'll take a look at the industry reaction, followed by some recommendations, and finally I'll open it up to the floor so that you can all ask me some lovely questions. It's worth noting at this point that when I talk about video on demand, it is inclusive of interactive, true, subscription, free, quasi, impulse and exclusive video on demand. When they were all introduced, there was a need to differentiate between them all, but as it's increased in popularity, it now all generally comes under the term of video on demand. Also, any statistics and figures that you see during the presentation are based on the UK. So, the arrival of streaming video has not only made it easier for us to watch whatever we want to watch at whatever time of day, we can also watch it wherever we happen to be, as long as there is an internet connection. You can now enjoy 3D cinema on walls as big as you like, with surround sound, right in your own front room, just at the touch of a button or the swipe of a finger. There's also a wealth of inexpensive technology that you can use to boost any sort of home cinema system. Services like LoveFilm, Netflix, YouTube, iTunes are all making films available right in your living room. So when you can access film direct to your television, laptop, tablet, phone, games console, or any other device that you might like to view it on, is there still room for cinema? I'll just point out to you that the cost to release a film in cinema, when working on a relatively low budget, it works out at about 10 to 15% of the total budget to create the prints for a small run. This is about £37,500. However, this doesn't include any type of publicity, which can then further increase the costs to hundreds of thousands of pounds. The bigger the budget for a film, if you're talking about millions of pounds, that then decreases the percentage of the budget that it costs to create the prints, but it kind of all sort of evens out, and it can still end up costing quite a lot of money. When releasing video on demand, however, it can cost nothing but just a little bit of time. If the production crew are willing to put in the time and the effort and use sites such as Vimeo or YouTube, it's very, very inexpensive. If you do choose to use a website such as iTunes, you will need an aggregator, which there are many. An example is IndieFlix. And then iTunes will take 30% of the total cost per unit sold. As we've heard throughout many presentations this week, social media is no longer a phenomenon. It's just a part of everything that we do. And it's also making a change in the film industry. It's now starting to be regarded much higher as a way to review films that are released than what the actual critics say. In an article recently published by Jamie Middleton, he said, "It would go against business sense to include cinemas in the distribution process at all, were it not for the massive amount of hype produced by a high-profile film premiere. Social media is stepping into that gap, as red carpets give way to social interactivity. Create a good buzz online, and DVD and on-demand sales will be assured," which is quite an interesting point. I just want to talk a little bit how the traditional release window is changing as well. Now, normally, if you release a film, you wouldn't expect it to go to DVD until 6 months after it was released. However, in 2010, with the release of Tim Burton's then most current film, which was Alice in Wonderland, Disney announced plans that they were going to release the DVD just 3 months after it was first viewed in cinema. As you can imagine, this was met by quite a lot of anger from certain cinema chains. Odeon, View and Cineworld all threatened to boycott the release of this particular film. It was lifted, but this was only 24 hours before the film actually premiered. This release window is ever decreasing, and in 2011, Warner Brothers, Sony, Fox and Universal all agreed to supply their films to a home premiere service in America called DirecTV. The idea is that subscribers pay $30 a month to get access to the latest releases from the companies just 8 weeks after they're aired in the cinema, which is quite a substantial decrease from the traditional 6 months. So let's take a look at the first contender. In the blue corner, we have the cinemas. According to the British Screen Advisory Council, there are 763 cinemas throughout the UK, boasting 3,741 screens. Now, reports that the traditional cinema has had their day and that it's all going to come to a dramatic end because of some sort of new technology are nothing new. Cinemas have already seen off the rise of television, which first transmission was in 1935, however didn't gain as much popularity until 1953 with the Queen's coronation. VHS, Betamax, I don't think many of you will remember Betamax, certainly, maybe a few. DVD, which came to the market in 1999, and Blu-ray, which was first unveiled in the year 2000. We'll take a look at some statistics and figures, because I know some of you managers love to get your hands on a few figures. Oh. Well, at least you got it, Will. That's good. I'm glad. Thank you very much. Moving on to the average ticket price. According to the Cinema Exhibitors Association, the average ticket price for 2006 for an adult was £6.06. As you can see over the decades shown, it's more or less increased in line with inflation. However, there is a notable spike in 2010 where it increased by 9.4%. I will just say I'm really sorry if you can't see all of these figures at the back. However, if you do want to have a closer look at them, I'll quite happily show you the presentation again at lunchtime. There was a recent survey done by the London Liberal Democrats, which took into account the cinema price for an adult over 10 European capitals. Now, the average price was found to be £4.95. However, if you go to a cinema in Leicester Square on a Saturday night, you can look to pay anything up to about £17.50 for an adult, which every time I read that figure it just shocks me because that's staggering. I will just point out, however, that the cheapest capital city in Europe for you to go and view a film is Athens at £4.70. You never know, William Hague could take it as one of his suggestions. I'm going to have to change my jokes. Moving on to the gross box office. As you can see from the chart, 2010, the gross income was £988 million for cinema. And in 2011, that increased by 8.97%, or 88.6 million, to 1,076.6 million. The second highest rise was in 2009, where it rose by 11.1%. This could just be due to one or two large-scale releases rather than any particular phenomenon, as there wasn't any real increase in the ticket price. It only rose by 3.8%. Let's go on to the attendance. In 2011, there was 171.6 million tickets sold in adult tickets in the cinema. I just want to point out, taking into consideration the ups and downs of all of the statistics that I've shown you, from 2008 to 2009, on most of the slides has been quite a noticeable rise. Now this surprised me as the recession started in 2008, though maybe we were of the opinion, it will not affect us. Okay, moving on. Let's have a look at the red corner. This is obviously the streaming services. It's estimated that 15 million homes in the UK have access to video on demand. This includes subscription services such as Sky and Virgin Media, TV on demand, the iPlayer 4OD, devices that you can view internet-related TV on, such as a smart box, smart TV, your Xbox, and also online streaming sites such as Blinkbox, LoveFilm, and Netflix. It's worth just pointing out at the minute, though we see video on demand, particularly online streaming, as a recently newly found phenomenon, it actually started in 1994 as part of the Cambridge Digital Interactive Television Trial. This provided video and data to 250 homes and a number of schools who were all connected to Cambridge Cable. This later became part of NTL and Virgin Media. And I'm quite sure that each and every one of you in this room can give me another legal, that is legal, way to stream films. And this selection here is literally scratching the surface, as there are hundreds available. Let's give you some more information. I just want to concentrate on online sales at the moment, which is this line just here. You probably won't be able to see the detail on this from the back, but it wasn't until 2006 that the online streaming sales started to increase. And then if you look at the percentage increase table at the bottom, you can see that it has grown quite rapidly over those 5 years. When you look at the predicted growth, and yes, I do realise that this includes 2011, but I was unable to find any concrete sources to be able to reference 2011 income to. Again, concentrating on the online movie revenue, it is predicted to grow and continue to increase. If we then put this into the percentage increase table again, as you can see, as highlighted here, it's expected to grow up until 2013 by a quarter. However, in 2014 it's predicted to decrease. Personally, I feel that these numbers are a little bit reserved, as given the massive amount of increase it saw in the first 5 years, to suddenly drop, though you would expect a new product to eventually plateau and become just, on a constant level, I wouldn't expect it to do so suddenly. And I think that there's a lot more room for growth in it. Okay, let's take a look at the industry reaction and what people think about this. Mark de Quervain, who's the Sales and Marketing Director at View Entertainment, said that going out to the cinema is more of an experience now than ever before and is regarded as a fun night out with friends and family, which is difficult to replicate at home. This suggests that, as in the past it's been more of a weekly activity that you might undertake, now it's not an everyday treat. It's something that you do just for a special occasion. And I don't include sort of your Orange Wednesdays in that, because it's not buying 2 adult tickets, you're getting one free. Dave Hughes, who's a film producer with Red Union Film, agreed with this, but he suggested it's not necessarily a good thing by saying, I think unfortunately that cinema will essentially become a fun fair event more and more, and the bulk of people's watching will be online. In 2011, a group of people within the creative community, which included directors Peter Jackson and James Cameron, wrote a letter to the major studios, which was titled "An Open Letter from the Creative Community on Protecting the Moviegoing Experience." As part of this letter, they said, "As a crucial part of the business, that last year grossed close to 32 billion in worldwide theatrical sales, we in the creative community feel that now is the time for studios and cable companies to acknowledge that a release pattern for premium video on demand that invades the current theatrical window could irrevocably harm the financial model of our film industry. They continued on to say, we ask that our studio partners do not rashly undermine the current and successful system. Now it's clear to say, looking at the figures that I've presented to you, that cinema is the most financially successful platform to release a film. However, this view isn't necessarily agreed with by everybody in the film industry. In a recent interview that I conducted with Matthew Justice, who's the Managing Director of Big Talk Production, he said that video on demand is absolutely the future and it will have a huge impact. Independent film distributors are now gaining essentially pay TV deals because of video on demand entering the market. This is the biggest single change to film financing in the last 10 years. Video on demand is here to stay and is the future. Finally, I just want to look at a statement by Charlie Yeats, who's the Associate Director and Head of Cinema at Mediacom. He was asked, when considering the premium price that consumers pay for cinema, does the rise of video on demand spell its eventual death? In response to this, he said, no way. With the explosion of video on demand platforms and HD TVs, cinema remains the prime place for consumers to immerse themselves in new films. Going to the cinema is an experience that a device cannot offer, hence why it remains the nation's favourite leisure activity. Now, I do not dispute that it is an incredibly popular activity for us all to undertake. However, the key point to this statement for me is the acknowledgement of new technology. I feel that it would be silly for cinemas to ignore the ever-evolving technology, particularly in relation to this subject. And although video on demand obviously isn't currently making as much money as the cinema industry, I feel that it's clear to say it's here to stay. And with the development of the internet and tools, I feel that cinema should embrace the new technology and work with it rather than fight against it. However, looking at how much of an impact this will have on cinema in the future, I feel it's quite uncertain, as I'm not sure that I agree with the predicted growth from Screen Digest. So it will be interesting to keep watch on this and see how many subscribers it gains per year, and so what influence it has on the cinema. I definitely don't think that it's ever going to completely get rid of the cinema. So, my recommendations. As managers, something that we all have to be aware of is that no matter what art form we work in, the consumers and the people that we are trying to get to buy tickets to come and see our events want much more for their money. Using social and current technology, this can help to boost that feeling. I feel that cinemas need to maximise the impact of their screen and make cinema experience bigger than just going to see the latest release. Many more people are buying tickets online now or via mobile apps, and by using sort of integrated marketing, it can help to communicate with the audience before they even get to the cinema. And I feel it shouldn't stop there. The whole process of going to the cinema needs to carry right through, from the moment you order your tickets, to arriving in the foyer to buy your popcorn, and even getting back to your car to go home. By giving people that extra bit of something for their money, it can help to entice people to buy more and come and use the facilities more often. Ways in which, just to give you a couple of examples, I feel cinema and managers within this area can work towards these goals is firstly by using a programme such as Six Sheets. Now, some of you may have already heard of this. It's an electronic replacement for the traditional billboards. If you link it to a PC, you can also incorporate an element of touchscreen to it. So by providing this within the foyer or outside, you can incorporate programme content, reviews, the latest trailers, or even information on restaurants nearby or bed and breakfast, depending on what kind of information you want to include. Another tool is CineSync. Now, I've spoken before about how Twitter and Facebook is becoming increasingly important in reviewing films. And CineSync is a tool for visual communication. It was originally used by producers and directors to view a performance without being in the same room. The idea is that the setup and the technology is all synchronized in real time. So the producer or the director can be in one room, or one city, or even one country, and can write comments and notes to the performers as the performance is going on. Now, if we can incorporate this type of technology into an app that's downloadable for people viewing the films, it can help us to provide instantaneous responses to what's going on. Instead of people sort of waiting until they get out of the film, or even they get home and then changing their Facebook status or sending a tweet and being able to reflect on what's happened, you'll be able to get that gut feeling from the work that you've produced. Finally, I want to move on to an augmented reality app called Blipper. This is just one example. On Blipper's website, it states that it's an image recognition phone app which aims to bring to life real-world newspapers, magazines, products and posters with an augmented reality experience and instantaneous content. If you want to find out more or download the app, visit the website, but just to let you know who they've worked with in the past. Fashion magazine ASOS are currently using the technology, whereby if you scan the model or certain pictures, it will then turn into a video on your phone where you can manipulate the model in a good way to do a 360-degree turn so that you can see the entirety of what they're wearing. It's also being used by Wrigley's chewing gum. If you scan the packet, it turns into a video game that you can play about asteroids. Heinz Tomato Ketchup are currently using this technology in that if you scan the bottle, it opens up into a recipe card. Now, the link between this and cinema for me is if cinemas were to incorporate aspects of the set or props within the foyer of the cinema, it could open up a new world of information to the people going to view the films. By scanning the items on their phone, they could get backstage information, exclusive interviews, rare footage, or just general information about the cast and crew on the film. And it would help to give that extra bit of something that everybody wants for their money. This is also something that you wouldn't necessarily get from video on demand, so it would be giving an exclusive service to the people going to see the cinema viewings. Finally, I just want to show you a video. Now, this is been made by Augmented Reality Cinema, and it just helps to highlight how I mean for the augmented reality to work within cinema. Though the couple in the video are scanning specific areas within London that then transform into scenes from films, I feel that this is completely transferable to in the physical cinemas themselves.
Thinking of a world in the light of the sun, and all the many lives that were ever begun, ever begun.
Oh God! I'm so sorry. I'm so
Our
sorry.
little world turning into a dream. As each day goes, there's another one.
Get my car back.
Another one
I've never used a visitor's entrance before.
How many people will we feed today? How many lips will we kiss today? If we wake up,
Thank you very much.
Questions for Emma? Amy?
Do you think the wider entertainment industry would help kind of the cinema and cinema experience kind of through like NT Live and kind of live streaming of like Bolshoi Ballet into cinemas, which is something you can't get currently on video on demand?
I think that's definitely got room for growth. Lauren's going to be talking about National Theatre Live later on. So I won't go into too much detail, but I think it's definitely something that can be transferred throughout different art forms, because, as you quite rightly said, there isn't access to content as readily available as going to the cinema. And for those people, the theatre, sorry, and for those people that can't access this or can't get to the place where the performance is, there is definitely room for it to be streamed into the cinemas.
Do you think that pricing strategy, that dynamic pricing like Ryanair, for example, will benefit cinemas?
So the question is, would the Matrix yield model, in fact, that, for instance, EasyJet uses, where you buy a ticket and closer to the time you are going to watch a film, the higher the price would go up. So, in other words, buy early, you get it cheap, buy late, you pay for it. Would that benefit cinemas?
I guess the closest example I can give you to that would be something similar to how Orange works. Though if you look at attendance by day, I'm quite certain that a Wednesday has notable peaks other than the rest of the week, though I haven't done research on this. But that is quite an interesting point. It's something that they should look into. However, cinema is also sort of a last-minute activity that you plan. It's not necessarily something that you plan months in advance, unless it's for a particular film that's going to be released on this date. So I'm not sure that it would necessarily work at the same time.
I can't actually see whose hand that is, but whoever's hand that is at the back, is it Jack? Sorry, it's just your head's in one place, then plainly you're onto another.
Many of the video on-demand subscription services use like a subscription all you can eat. Do you think that would be something that cinemas could take more advantage of, so you pay everyone who wants as many films as they like?
So would the all-you-can-eat model, so you subscribe and at the beginning of the year you can go and see as many films as you like, would that be beneficial to cinema?
That's a really interesting point. That might actually be one way to gain more audience and to gain that sort of constant stream of people rather than it be for 1 or 2 big releases per year. I think it works quite well when it's teamed with on demand, because you can literally watch it anywhere at any time. However, there's still quite a lot of effort. I mean, for me personally, to go to the cinema takes me a minimum of 45 hours. 45 hours? Yeah, that's a long time. 45 minutes from where I live. So that's not necessarily something that might suit everybody, though it's definitely something that should be considered.
We've got 1 minute to the fire alarm, just in case anybody's nervous. Does anybody want to try and ask a question?
Thank you.